Do you have a top performer who might be a pain in the you know what? Should you fire him? We're going to answer that question all on today's show.
Salon owners are some of the most amazing people on planet Earth. The only problem is sometimes their hearts are so big and they give so much of themselves to their staff and guests that it creates unintended consequences. Our goal is to change the industry by elevating the way the rest of the world sees salons, spas, and barbershops and give it the credibility that it truly deserves. This is the Salon Owner Evo Revo Show.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Salon Scale, allowing you to charge by what you know, not by what you feel. So many things that you deal with on a daily basis. You got to decide with yourself, like, is there a reason for me to put up with this and stand for this? It could be anything, but sometimes that has a lot to do with the people that are on your team. And so with Doug and I today, we want to talk to you about how do you actually make a decision on whether somebody should stay or whether somebody should go? Because Doug, this comes up all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, people get hung up on, well, they're a big producer, so there's like, I can't get rid of them. And you know, if you get caught in that headspace, you're in trouble.
You're done. You're donezo, right? And I think the idea here is that I think people feel like they are held captive by sometimes their highest performer on a team. Now, I want to talk about this because it was when I used to work a long time ago in marketing and promotions, and I used to run a street team company. And what was interesting about running that street team company is we had one client that came in that was almost 85% of our total business. They were one of the biggest clients. It was the U.S. Army, and they came in and they were one of our biggest clients. And basically, if they said do something, guess what we said, Doug?
Yes.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. Like, they were a huge client. They made up for 85+% of our revenue. And if they asked for it, we just did it because we didn't have a choice. We don't want to lose it. And in business, there's this idea that you don't ever want to be in a position where one client becomes more than really like 30% of your revenue. If you have one client that's more than 30% of your revenue, that's actually a very dangerous position to be in, because if that one client goes away, they potentially wreck your organization. At the time, we had over 40 employees for the company, and that more than 85% of the employees were based on this one contract, and that we kind of lived and died by that contract. And like I said, the answer was, sir, yes, sir, right? So here's the thing, though, is that inside of a salon, what if, and Doug, I think, I'm going to make this argument too, is that sometimes a salon owner can be 50% of a salon's revenue, especially in smaller salons, right? We see that a lot, is that somebody's like, well, I'm 50% of the revenue and my other 4 staff are the rest of the revenue, right? That happens a lot too. So let me just say this. Should you fire yourself? I would say you probably need to fire yourself in the way in which you're operating the business, because if you're most of the revenue, you are also a giant liability in the business. So if you're the top performer, that's something that we need to pay attention to as well. You want to speak on that for a second, Doug? And then we're going to give you a matrix today on how to actually make this decision and when you should make this decision inside the salon.
Yeah, I mean, if you were one of the top performers, you're a large percentage of the business, so you need to figure out how you can change that. Because if you're doing that much business, you're not giving the business the amount of time and energy that it deserves to run like a real business. So you got to start easing towards that way. Fire yourself from one day, and then fire yourself from another day, fire yourself from a half a day.
Yeah, I love it.
You want to look at it in that context. But the thing about it is, you've got to work on your business and not in your business to turn it into a real business. Because ultimately, if it was a real business, what you're making is profit. Is not what you're doing behind the chair. It's not what you pay yourself as a manager. It's profit is the reward you have for taking the risk for running the business. And it's also if you're going to sell your business, that's what someone's buying from your business. They're buying future profits. So if you're a huge part of your business, you don't have much to sell because you're probably not going to be there after you sell it. So therefore, that business is not worth very much money. So you've got the opportunity. And we've worked with a lot of salon owners, just to be clear, worked with a lot of salon owners that were 70, 80% of their revenue when they started with us. And, now then some of them are, 10, 15%, some of them are 0 of their revenue because they did start that transition of getting out, and now it's a real business, and now their business has a ton more value than what it did before. Now they have something that they not only get rewarded because they took the risk to start the business, but they also have something that they can sell for a substantial amount of money that before, when they were a big part of the business, they can't. And it's another thing. People get caught in that, catch-22 of, I've got to do this to make it survive. And maybe in the beginning that's true, but you got to start working away from that and let the business start to be a business that doesn't require your physical presence.
I think sometimes, Doug, as business owners, right, we get stuck in this. And by the way, do me a favor, would you guys give me a shout out online and just type in where you're on the line from? If you're on with us live right now, I'd love to know where you're on from. So do me a favor and put your city and state. I'd love to know, or province or country or wherever you are. Do me a favor and let me know. But one of the things I think is really important about that, Doug, is like the first most exciting day of your entire business is like the day business, right? You get excited and you're like, hey, this is awesome. I love it. I'm pumped. There's so much opportunity here. And then I think the second most exciting day is when you realize you don't have to do all the work anymore. Like that's so massive. Like I remember that in multiple stages where I'm like, wait a second, you mean somebody else is doing the work right now and we're still making money and I don't have to do it? Like that's a really big day.
Yeah, and it's a part of the deal on that is if you've got that big producer that is not, in the team, working with the team, like say rowing in the same direction, but they're a big producer. And I mean, I'm not saying if you've got that person, then you just should fire them. That's not what we're saying.
Right. Yeah. We're not saying if they're a big producer, just let them go because they're a liability. We're going to tell you exactly how and when it's a problem and when it's a benefit to you. We'll talk about how to do that in just a second. Yeah. But by the way, I want to shout out to everybody who's on with us live. It looks like we got some Houston we got some Texas. Raquel's on from Texas. Monique from Rancho Cucamonga. And then also, if you can scroll up for me just so I can see that last one on there. There's also someone on from Northern Ireland, Valerie Kennedy from Northern Ireland. We got Detroit. We got Missouri. So you guys are from all over the place. Thanks for joining us on with us live today. But yeah, we're talking about how do you actually figure out if you need to let a top performer go, even if that top performer is you. And I'm not saying fire yourself and don't go to work, but fire yourself from the job that you have and give yourself the job of the owner. I remember a long time ago, Doug, I was talking to a friend of mine who was a manager, and he said, your job is to do one thing, replace yourself. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He said, you want to work yourself out of a job so that you no longer have to be there. You want to hire your replacement. And you want to then, as soon as you hire your replacement, you get to elevate to the next job. So if you're an employee, right? Because if you start a salon and you run that salon on your own, you're an employee of your own salon. You have to think of it that way. Then if you hire an employee of the salon, well, guess what? You're automatically now a manager. Now, I'm not saying just you get to be a manager just because you're that, but like you can start having managerial duties. So you've hired a replacement, then hire yourself another replacement and another replacement and another replacement. And it might take 3 people or 4 people to replace you inside your salon, or maybe even more. But that's the job of a business owner, is once you have enough people on your team and you're a good manager, well, now all of a sudden you got 5 people, 7 people you're overseeing. You're the manager. Guess what your job is to do again? Replace yourself again with a manager and then actually become more of a owner. And I think so many people get caught up in that, is they want to be part of the team. They want to be part of the family. They want to be part of all that. They want to be the top producer. And Doug, I hear that all the time, right? Is as a salon owner, they say, well, I want to show everybody what they're capable of, right? I want to show everybody what they should be doing. I want to lead by example. I hear that one all the time. And lead by example, the definition means I'll outwork everybody.
Right. And I think at the root of that is that they're comfortable behind the chair. They're very comfortable with their skill level. They're very comfortable with their customer service. They're very comfortable. They're not as comfortable being a owner. They're not as comfortable because a lot of people come into the salon industry specifically, they don't have a lot of business ownership experience. And so they're not as comfortable being the owner. Being in that, having that is scary. It's like, now I'm a hairdresser, I need to be doing hair. It's like, well, if you've opened up a salon, you need to be a business owner and start working towards that. And I think most people get caught in that comfort zone of I'm comfortable behind the chair, I'm comfortable doing this. And I kind of, for lack of a better way to say it, I can stick my head in the sand about the other stuff, just hope everything just works. But then that's what keeps you there, by the way. That's what keeps you behind the chair, because you're not giving attention to the other areas and growing the other areas to make sure that it's running the way it's supposed to be, that allows it to run like a business. So it's doing that transition across. And then I think, like I said, if you've got that big producer, you got to make sure you've got the right people on your team, because that's the other problem when people first get started. They hire, anybody that is a warm body and can do hair. They're going to put them on the team. They get one that it may not be a cultural fit for you. And if it's not, then you're going to be much better. I can't tell you the number of people from my own experience, and then from people that we work with, salon owners that we work with, that when they let go of that, just the exponential change
Freedom.
in the way they feel about their business. I mean, I've had people like, I hated going into work because of this person. And now that they're not there, I love it. My team, oh my gosh, the energy back in my team.
Yeah.
And that's what you don't realize. I mean, I really like to relate it to like a cancer. And it will grow and start to become malignant and take over other parts of your business the longer that you leave it there.
Yeah.
So you got to, figure out, and that's the thing. It's like, that's one of the reasons, by the way, that you make a profit, because you've got to make the hard decisions. No one else is going to be able to do that for you.
Totally.
And that's part of what profit is to pay you for, or reward you for taking the risk and putting yourself in that position. But you owe it to your team to get that. And I tell people, say, look, it's not working out. I'm going to give you the opportunity to go find a place where you can be happy. Obviously, you're not happy here. It's not working out. So I'll give you the opportunity to go find that right place for you. Because I don't wish anybody bad will. I mean, if you're not the fit for me, I don't want you to, go and have a terrible career and everything end and, your finances go in the toilet. That's not what I want for anyone. But there are times that you may need to go work somewhere other than here, because you're holding other people back in this environment. And so therefore, we need to part ways, and just figure out how you have that conversation. Go somewhere else, be successful. That's fine. But I mean, also, we're not close to us. You need to do it. That's where, non-compete.
Yeah, not down the street.
Don't open up next door to me, because that's not fair for everything that we've done to help build you up to this point. People want to follow you. That's fine. And then there's, way you set it up, how you need to know what your process is for letting them go. You need to be in control of it, not where they're coming to you and blindsiding you. Whether it's like, they just quit and they're taking half the team. It's like, get ahead of it. You take control of it. You have a plan for how you're going to do it, and do it. And you'll be surprised. I can't think of a single situation where someone goes, wow, I really shouldn't have let that person go.
Never. And by the way, we got to take a quick break, because we're overdue for a break. We're going to be back in just about a minute after a quick word from our sponsor. And what I want to say is, when we come back, we're going to talk about when should you fire your top producer. And then, Doug, if you're cool with it for the rest of the podcast, I'd love to then talk about how do you prepare for that moment. So if you do need to decide it's time to let them go, how do you make sure you do it in a classy way that prevents your salon from being train wrecked when you lose your top producer? Sound good?
Yep.
All right, we'll see you guys in just a minute after a quick word from our sponsor.
Hey, HPSA listeners, let me ask you this. Are you tired of not knowing what your hair color is costing you on every appointment and watching it chew up your profit? Well, with Salon Scale, we take the guesswork out for you. Using a mobile app paired with a Bluetooth scale, Salon Scale will tell you exactly what your color is costing you on every bowl mix down to the gram. As you mix, Salon Scale will also digitally store your formulas and track how much product is being used in real time, so you can manage your inventory, cover your expenses, and generate more profit in your salon. Use promo code HPSA10 to get 10% off an annual subscription. Salon Scale, the new standard for mixing color.
Are your top performers costing you more money than they're making you? And oftentimes, Doug, we haven't even talked about this yet, and we're about to talk about the matrix, when you should let somebody go. Sometimes, and I see this all the time, Doug, is salons are like, well, look, our average commission might be 45 or 50%, but I have a top performer and they've been here so long, I'm paying out 65% commission to keep that top performer, which in a lot of cases, we've seen that happen, right? Over and over again, where we've seen people do the math and go, wait a second, I actually pay them to come to work here every single day. And even though they add a couple $100,000 to my overall revenue of the salon, it actually costs me money to have them working here because of what I pay out in commission. We've seen that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes when they leave, if you've eked up their commission over time, or if they were grandfathered in with something, and it may be one of the ones
deal.
that you're paying too much. So not only are they culturally causing you problems and being a pain in the butt, they're also costing you a decent amount. So you've got to, sometimes it's not as bad when they go away if they're one of your top commission people, especially if they're outside your normal pay scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it makes a big difference. And so I think it's worth getting into it right now. Let's talk about how that performance works out here. Let's talk about it for just a second. Is I'm going to put this up on the screen. Let's see if I can get this to all work the way it needs to here. But I want you to draw this out. If you're listening to me on audio only and you can't see this, imagine a square and divide that square with a cross in the middle of it. So you've got 4 squares, okay? And then write results on the left and values on the bottom. So results on the left, values on the bottom. And then results goes up to the positive results and down to the negative results. Values goes to the right for positive and to the left for negative, okay? So what that means is we're looking at this right now and we're talking about, okay, well, what happens if somebody has low values, like the values of the business, the values of the salon, that they have low values, like they don't match the values of your company and of your salon. If they don't match the values in the company that they work with and that they get bad results, that's usually an easy call, right, Doug? Is we know, like people just go, oh yeah, well, they don't match our values and they get poor results. Well, easy, fire them, right? That's an easy one, yeah?
Yep, and that was the easy because it's like, well, they're not really producing anything, so let's get rid of them.
Right, they're not producing a darn thing, so let's just let them go and we'll get them out of here, right? So we'll do that. But here's the one that I think is the sneakiest, and this happens to salons all the time, okay? Is this top category here where their values are poor. Like, they don't clean up, they think they're divas, they've got all kinds of opportunity here, right? There's all of these things that happen inside the salon, and they don't match the values. They're not doing, they don't want to build a code of honor. They don't want to show up when they show up. They just kind of want to run the show, but they get great results, right? This is that top performer category. Is you got a top performer, and this is really, really important, is you got a top performer who doesn't match the values of the company. By the way, this model comes to us from a friend of ours named Cameron Harold. He's written some amazing books. If you get a chance to look him up, we saw this recently and just thought we'd share it with you. Again, shout out to Cameron Harold for this great model. Is that if even though they get great results, if their values do not match the business, guess what? They need to go. Now, I think this is one of those things that a lot of people, Doug, they stall out on this one, right? They're like, look, I'm going to wait just a hot minute before I fire this person because they make me so much money that I'm gonna wait. And then that waiting becomes 3 months, then 6 months, then a year. Then 5 years later, you're still like, well, I don't really know if I want to let that person go, right? That happens over and over and over again. But what it does is, to your point, it's cancerous and it's poisonous to the rest of the members of the team, because then you're telling the team, well, as long as you get results, I don't care about how you get them, which is super dangerous, right?
And you don't want to duplicate that person, and they will start to duplicate inside the salon if you let them stay there long enough.
That is so true. So true. So let's talk about this other category. So we, like we talked about in this square, bottom left-hand corner, low results, low values, they need to go. Top left-hand corner, high results, low values, they need to go. Bottom right-hand corner, high company values, they love the company, they're a great representative of who you are as a brand, but they have low results, okay? This is a really interesting one that I think is important for you guys to know, is that the goal of that bottom right-hand corner is you got to put them in the, what's called the, get them in the right seat. And Doug, I can't tell you the number of times I've had to have that conversation. I'm like, look, you represent the values of the company well, but you're having issues with results. Maybe it's because you don't like the type of work that you're doing. I put you in a management role, but you're not a natural manager, and we haven't been able to train you to get up to speed the way that we need to. So maybe that's not the best place to put you in. I put you in management, but that's not 100% of a good fit for you. Or maybe it's somebody that you said, well, look, I've got you at the front desk, but really you're better off in a management role, or whatever those things are, right? Is you might need to move them to another seat inside the organization to get them the better level of results, or you work on their training. I see David on here asked a question. He said, do you think some of our top performers become like this because we stop asking about their goals, ambitions, and we stop supporting them? And yeah, I think sometimes what happens, David, is that people do get in that spot where maybe the owner gets lazy and they stop coaching them. And that's where I'm saying is, if they have great values and their results are low, that's where the opportunity is. Maybe you need to coach them up a little bit. Maybe you need to get them in the right seat. They need to shift seats around as far as what they're doing inside the salon, maybe move them to a different department. That's when you can start to take advantage of that opportunity and see what's different. And then finally, this last category here, which is where Doug, I want everybody in my business, no matter what, to be in this top right category, right?
Yep.
High results, high company values. And I thought this was awesome. I love how Cameron Harold said this. He said, your job is to handcuff them to the business. Like, they get great results. They have amazing values. They want to be a part of the team forever. Your job is to make them a part of the team, lock them in, make them a permanent fixture in the business with what they do. And by the way, how do you handcuff somebody to a salon? Well, maybe what you do is you make them a part of your shareholder team, right? You help create more assets with them. You help make them a part of your training team. You help make them part of everything that you do inside the salon, and that will actually help handcuff them to the salon. Now, that means pay them well and take them on and get feedback from them, because those are the people that are keepers on the team that you have. This is helpful, by the way. Do me a favor and comment. Super helpful in the chat. Doug, you want to talk about this at all?
Yeah, I think the idea is to find that right person, that cultural fit with high results, and then to grow more of those people. What did I do to grow that person? To David's point, grow. If it's because you just quit coaching people, that's one thing. But if you got people that even you coach and they're some personality things, they don't fit in your culture, and sometimes you got to do a cultural reset. Sometimes like I said, people just hired to be hiring in the beginning and wasn't thinking about, is this person a good cultural fit for my business?
Yeah.
And now then that you have gotten clear about what it is, it's not the right place for everybody. And that's okay. It's okay. Every business isn't for every person. And sometimes we want to fix everybody. And some people aren't fixable for your business. If they just got different cultural values than what you have, you just have to let that person go. But to that point is coaching people up, continue to give people a roadmap so they continue to see a future with your company, the good ones. Make sure they see a future with your company, with them long term, so that then they will stick with you. And there's a lot of things we talk about, being on leadership teams, getting where there's a shareholder opportunity or profit sharing opportunity. Make sure that you're having those conversations with the people so they're clear about what is available. And then they're also, once you kind of get the feel for the ones that aren't a cultural fit, you may still make some mistakes hiring, but you'll pick them out quicker. And you'll be able to help them to find a different path sooner rather than leaving them. The worst thing you do is if the number one thing is someone producing dollars, you're going to have a hard time keeping your business is going to grow to the level it deserves to grow to. I'll say that way. That's what holds you back. Is you got the one producing, but culturally they're a train wreck. And then that's going to just prevent other people from enjoying their experience working in your business. And therefore the culture of the business goes down. You start to get where you don't even want to go into the business because it just pisses you off.
Yeah, it's culturally disappointing, right?
Right. And so then if you're not enthusiastic and happy about your business, how do you expect any of your staff to be? That's why we say it's like a cancer. It really starts to eat up everything in your business.
Doug, we got 1 minute, maybe 2 left. How do you prepare to fire a top performer who has the wrong set of values? What do you do?
I think you got to walk through the process. You got to think through the process of what is the communication that I'm going to have with their clients, with our clients that are going to see them. So what does that communication look like? What agreements did we have moving into this that I can then bring those agreements to the table? I probably would go over it with our leadership team and make sure that they're aware of what we're about to do and get their input on it. But I would have all the things in place so that whenever we had that conversation, I had an email prepared to go out to their clientele.
Yep.
I've had the access ready to turn off all their access to all the stuff that is part of the company. I reiterate any agreements that we had that are signed agreements that we had together. And I'm just be prepared and walk through that. And then, you also in your head, you have to be ready. And like I said, it doesn't have to be, and if it's a big personality, it usually is, understand there's going to be some upset there, but your intention, I'm not trying to hurt or harm you. I wish hurt or harm. They may wish you some hurt or harm by the time the conversation's over. But, I go and find a place you can be happy. I'd love for you to be happy somewhere. Hopefully you can find that, whether that's in a booth rental world or whether it's with another salon, but it's not here. So I think when you're super clear on that, and think about it, it's got to be for the rest of your team. I mean, it's got to be, you know it. Everybody that's on this call, you know, if you've got one of those people, you know it. If that person's been popping in your head through this entire call, so you need to sit down and figure out what you're going to do about it. Since you are the owner and the buck does stop with you, you will be very happy that you dealt with the problem instead of letting it continue to grow.
And the last thing I want to leave you guys with is this thought, is there's probably been somebody who's knocking around in your brain that you're like, damn it, I know who we're talking about. Like we talked about earlier, this is coach. See if you can get them in the right seat over and over and over again. Document it. Pay attention to it. Have that conversation. Because I can't tell you the number of times when I've sat down and had that conversation and that person did a 180 when I finally confronted them about that situation. They did a 180. They came in, they were a totally different person. When they realized that their livelihood was in jeopardy in the future of our business, I've had people turn around. I've also had people who I've had that come to Jesus conversation and they looked at me like, yeah, cool. What are you going to do? Fire me? I mean, literally, I've had that meeting before. And I think you've got to be prepared. You got to be ready to do it. And I think now, hopefully after listening to this podcast or watching this video with us today, you understand what needs to happen, give the proper warning, have that discussion, but then be ready, be documented, be prepared, have that conversation, and then figure it out. But I will tell you, man, the amount of times that the people who I know who have fired the top performers that they thought was going to wreck their salon or their spa, if they got rid of that top performer, they have turned around. And I've never, Doug, I don't think you have either. I've never had somebody come back to me and say, I wish we would have never fired so-and-so. I have never, ever heard somebody say, I wish they could come back.
No, yeah. I mean, you got to, and like I said, there is a process, of course. I mean, you don't just turn the switch on and do it. You've got to try to coach them, see if you can get them. Because sometimes the ones that were drifting off, if you have the right coaching with them, you can bring them back in and get them in line, and things work out wonderfully. But I've never, ever seen one that they knew that it was a bad fit. They knew that it was a cancer inside their business. Have ever said anything but, it's so, I wish I'd have done it before. I wish I'd have done it sooner. I wish I'd have got out of my head about it and just done what I knew I needed to do.
That's right. Well, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. Do me a favor, give us a rating in the App Store. It's always very helpful. Or share this with another salon owner that you know. Send them a message and give them access to this link. We always appreciate when you let other salons know about us. Thanks for being on today's podcast, all about if you should fire your top performers. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Evo Revo podcast.
Today's podcast was brought to you by Salon Scale, allowing you to charge by what you know, not by what you feel.
Please subscribe, leave us a review, and you can always get more information, including show notes and the video episodes at evorevopodcast.com.